We're sending a message that only men belong in the aerospace community.
How do we bring tomorrow into today, into an industry that is evolving right before our eyes?
Member to ask questions. I just want to clarify that the video that we saw earlier was a simulation done by Senator Cruz, I think, and his team. That was not a real video of the incident. There seems to be some confusion about that, so.
No, ma'am, I knew it was a simulation.
Yes, okay, yeah.
Thank you.
You clearly stated that, but not everybody
Got it.
may have captured that, so we just want to reiterate that. Next I have Senator Vance.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Nolan, thank you for being here.
Thank you. I did not realize that.
I'm going to ask just a little bit about some of the unusual increases in obsession with the vocabulary and language that we're seeing in some of the FAA guidance and related documents related to our aviation industry. I want to ask, did the FAA issue a 176-page guidance document changing notices to airmen to notices of air mission in December of 2021?
We did.
This was in part to avoid using the gender term airman, correct?
Yes, sir, I believe so.
Okay. On November 10th, 2021, the FAA held an inclusive language summit. Are you familiar with this effort?
I am familiar with it.
Okay. During the summit, which had a solicitation published in the Federal Register, Deputy Administrator Mims stated that when we use terms like airmen or unmanned aircraft, sorry, I'm laughing because this has to be a joke, we're sending a message that only men belong in the aerospace community. Do you agree with that statement?
Well, Senator, what I could say is that having been a pilot for 42 years and seeing the evolution of our aerospace industry, I started out in helicopters and have flown as a captain in big jetliners.
Sure.
Not everyone is a pilot today. We have drones, we have spacecraft, And so I do believe going to notices to air missions is absolutely the right thing to do. It is an accurate reflection of where our aerospace system is today. Fully supportive of that. And none of that, by the way, detracts from our mission, which is the safety of our airspace, and that will always be our North Star.
Yeah, I think the point is, if it makes sense for some aviation reason, that's fine. If it makes sense purely to avoid gendered language, it seems like an unnecessary preoccupation with the words that you're using and that we're using rather than the work that we're doing. I want to just ask a couple of additional questions about this summit. The public notice for the meeting stated, if any individual employer, contractor, or industry partner feels excluded or marginalized because of language or words, the work of the agency suffers. Do you agree that the feelings of FAA employees about language are this important?
What I agree is that as we seek to attract the next generation of people into aerospace, mostly they won't look like the people sitting in this room. And so it's our ability to say, how do we bring tomorrow into today, into an industry that is evolving right before our eyes? So our ability to find inclusive ways of reaching underrepresented groups is a right path to be on.
Okay, I'd ask unanimous consent to enter into the record the Drone Advisory Committee public ebook. I have it right here. This document uses the term wife as an example of the type of language that we need to eliminate. Is that something you support?
I'm sorry, could you restate the question? I'm sorry, sir.
Yeah, I just said, so I'm asking unanimous consent, first of all, to enter this into the record, but it explains that wife, the word wife, is an example of the type of language that we need to eliminate. And I'm just asking if that's something you think is necessary or something you support.
I'd have to give that one some more thought.
Well, I would hope that the word wife is not something that or is something that we can all agree is a reasonable vocabulary word that most Americans use in their daily life. It's not something that we need to eliminate. I don't have much time here, so I would just ask here, at the same summit, during a panel called How the FAA is Pushing Gender Language Boundaries, the panelists stated that FAA leadership brought us to where we are here today. We see the recommendations from the committee as a foundation, but it's also just the beginning of the conversation. It strikes me that preoccupying ourselves so much with the words that we use rather than the work that we do, especially as our infrastructure appears to be crumbling and we've had major flight outages the last couple of years, is at best a distraction and at worst a thing that takes attention away from focusing on the real problems. I worry, especially I represent the people of Ohio, and I'm very confident that the majority of Ohioans, if there's a pilot who is offended by the word wife or the word cockpit, maybe that person shouldn't be a pilot. So rather than kowtowing to people who are fragile, maybe we should actually say, if you're so worried about the words that we are using, you shouldn't be flying, multi-ton metal engines through the sky. And I just ask all of us to maybe try to focus as much on real problems, like the fact that our aviation system seems to not be working as well as it used to, than the fact that we may use uninclusive or under-inclusive language. Thank you, Mr.
Senator
Nolan, I
Baldwin.
appreciate it.